All right, let's talk about acute cholecystitis. Now, if we break down the word itself, it actually tells us quite a lot because chole refers to bile, cyst comes from the Greek word for sac or bladder, and itis simply means inflammation. So when we put all of this together, cholecystitis literally means inflammation of the gallbladder. And in most cases, this inflammation doesn't just appear randomly. It usually begins when a gallstone becomes lodged in the cystic duct, which is the small duct that connects the gallbladder to the common bile duct. Now imagine someone who already has gallstones and they eat a fatty meal, maybe something like a pizza full of cheese. In response to that meal, the small intestine releases a hormone called cholecystokinin, and this hormone travels through the bloodstream to signal the gallbladder to contract and release bile to help digest the fats from the pizza. However, if one of those stones gets pushed into the cystic duct and becomes stuck, bile can no longer flow out properly. The gallbladder keeps trying to contract against that obstruction, and as it does, pressure inside the lumen begins to build up. Now, what happens if that obstruction doesn't resolve? Well, if the obstruction persists and the pressure inside the gallbladder keeps rising, the vascular supply to the wall may gradually become compromised, because this pressure can compress the nearby blood vessels. And when tissue doesn't receive enough blood flow, it becomes ischemic. As ischemia progresses, the gallbladder wall may start to weaken, and over time, certain areas of the wall can become necrotic, meaning the cells begin to die because they are no longer receiving enough oxygen and nutrients. When larger portions of the wall undergo necrosis, this may be referred to as gangrenous cholecystitis, a more severe form of the disease that carries a higher risk of perforation. However, if that weakening continues, the wall may eventually perforate and trigger intense inflammation of the peritoneal lining, leading to peritonitis. In other cases, long-time obstruction may lead to bile stasis, an ideal environment for bacterial growth. As bacterial growth continues, the bile itself may become infected and purulent, a condition commonly known as empyema of the gallbladder. If the infection progresses further, bacteria may enter the bloodstream and trigger a systemic inflammatory response, potentially leading to sepsis, particularly in elderly or immunocompromised patients. Now, what is the actual clinical presentation of acute cholecystitis? Before someone even presents to the emergency department, they may initially feel mid-epigastric pain. As the gallbladder stretches and becomes more distended, that pain typically shifts to the right upper quadrant. It's usually described as dull and aching, and it may radiate to the right shoulder or scapula due to shared innervation through the phrenic nerve. Unlike biliary colic, which tends to be intermittent and often resolves once the stone moves, the pain in acute cholecystitis usually persists for hours. It becomes constant, and patients often describe it as progressively worsening rather than coming in waves. Even movement, coughing, or deep inspiration may exacerbate it. Now, nausea and vomiting are fairly common, and fever may also develop as the inflammatory process continues. If sepsis occurs, some patients may also appear tachycardic, hypotensive, and generally unwell. On physical examination, there's a classic finding known as Murphy's sign. When you press under the right costal margin and ask the patient to take a deep breath, the descending diaphragm pushes the inflamed gallbladder downward against your hand. And if this maneuver causes sharp pain that forces the patient to abruptly stop inhaling, that's considered a positive Murphy sign, which strongly supports the diagnosis. Now, in terms of laboratory findings, we often see leukocytosis, particularly neutrophilic leukocytosis, especially in cases of empyema or sepsis. Liver enzymes may be mildly elevated as well, and in some cases, conjugated bilirubin and alkaline phosphatase levels can also rise, reflecting obstruction of bile flow. In many cases, imaging becomes essential. Ultrasound is usually the first test we perform. It can reveal gallstones, gallbladder wall thickening due to edema, pericholecystic fluid suggesting more advanced inflammation, as well as gallbladder distension from ongoing obstruction. However, in clinical practice, ultrasound findings can sometimes be inconclusive. In those situations, a CT scan may provide additional information and help clarify the diagnosis, particularly when complications are suspected, such as gangrenous cholecystitis, abscess formation, or even signs of peritonitis. So, how do we actually manage this condition? Well, treatment begins with stabilization. Patients are typically kept nil per os, meaning they are not allowed to eat or drink, in order to prevent further stimulation of gallbladder contraction. Remember, eating, especially fatty food, stimulates cholecystokinin release, which causes the gallbladder to contract. And if the duct is still obstructed, additional contraction only increases pain and interluminal pressure. Intravenous fluids are initiated, particularly because many patients are dehydrated from vomiting and reduced oral intake. And adequate pain control is also essential. Because bile stasis creates an environment where bacteria can proliferate, broad-spectrum intravenous antibiotics are typically initiated early. These usually need to cover gram-negative organisms and anaerobes. Common choices may include a third-generation cephalosporin, such as ceftriaxone combined with metronidazole, or a broader single agent such as piperacillin-tazobactam. However, supportive therapy alone does not remove the obstruction. The stone is still there. Therefore, in situations where there is suspicion of common bile duct obstruction, a specific type of upper endoscopy, known as ERCP, may be performed. During this procedure, the endoscope is advanced into the duodenum, and the opening of the bile duct can be accessed. Contrast may be injected to visualize the biliary tree, and if a stone is identified within the common bile duct, a sphincterotomy can be performed. In some cases, a temporary stent may also be placed to facilitate bile drainage and reduce ongoing obstruction. In stable patients, early laparoscopic cholecystectomy is considered the definitive treatment. This means surgical removal of the gallbladder, usually performed within the first 24 to 72 hours. Removing the gallbladder eliminates the source of inflammation and helps prevent recurrence. Before we wrap up this episode, let's walk through a clinical case together so you can have a better understanding of how acute cholecystitis works. We're seeing a 44-year-old woman who presents to the emergency department with about 24 hours of progressively worsening right upper quadrant abdominal pain. She tells us the pain began shortly after a large fatty meal, and since then it hasn't stopped. It's been steadily intensifying. She describes it as constant and sharp, with radiation to the right shoulder. She also reports nausea, multiple episodes of vomiting, and subjective fever. On arrival, her temperature is 38.4 degrees Celsius, her heart rate is mildly elevated at 102 beats per minute, and her blood pressure is stable at 130/78. On examination, we find marked tenderness in the right upper quadrant. When we palpate just below the right costal margin and ask her to take a deep breath, she abruptly stops inspiring because of the pain. Laboratory evaluation reveals leukocytosis, along with mild elevations in bilirubin and transaminases. However, her cholestatic enzymes are not significantly elevated, and her pancreatic markers are within normal limits, which makes pancreatitis unlikely. When we obtain a right upper quadrant ultrasound, we see multiple gallstones and mild pericholecystic fluid surrounding the gallbladder. So now, putting all this together, which of the following is the most likely diagnosis? A. Acute cholangitis. B. Acute cholecystitis. C. Biliary colic. D. Acute gallstone pancreatitis. The correct answer is B. Acute cholecystitis. This is a classic presentation of acute inflammation of the gallbladder due to cystic duct obstruction by a gallstone. The persistent right upper quadrant pain lasting more than 6 hours, the fever, the leukocytosis, and the positive Murphy sign all point in that direction. The ultrasound findings further support an inflammatory process rather than simple biliary colic. Cases like this are high yield because they test whether we can integrate history, labs, and imaging into one coherent diagnosis. If you found this helpful, feel free to leave a like or a comment. I truly appreciate the feedback. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.